Hello, Earth, and welcome aboard the Silverwind. My name is Captain Tom, and I'll be your host this evening. I am joined by our intergalactic robot friend, who is our producer and co-host, Wilson. So, yeah, tonight, have a bit of news to share with you guys. Make sure this mic is close enough. There we go. So, a little bit of news to share with you guys. We got some space news at the end, and of course, tonight we are going to be reading chapter 28 in Genesis, breaking down that story a little bit. Going to be talking about the Odyssey of Jacob, or at least the beginning of his big journey, right? So, Odyssey has a few different implications of it: journey home, or just a big journey where you can learn things and stuff. And we're going to see a lot of growth happening with Jacob, because he starts off in a pretty, a different place than these other people we've been talking about so far, like Isaac and Abraham, and or even Noah and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's go ahead. We'll go to our new place today we've never been to. It is Titania, and yeah, so it should be pretty fun. Let's go ahead. Let's see, make sure we got that planned out here. That should work. All right. One set. Wilson's got it. Perfect. All right, so as we're going over here, tell you guys a little bit about some changes are going to happen on the channel. And there's not going to be any changes to our Wednesday night program. That is going to remain the same. So hold up, we'll cut that music down. So our Wednesday night program will stay the same. We're going to continue doing what we're doing at the same time and everything like that. So you won't see any changes there, but on there's going to be a show on Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, basically a Monday through Thursday show. And on Monday and Tuesday, there's going to be a focus on basically finding, or at least not finding, but playing through stories that are actually in video games, like really good stories that are kind of, locked in these games where, it really does take quite of a commitment of time to really try and get those stories out of them and experience those stories. Let's see, let's make sure we are, hold up. We can, yeah. Let's make sure we don't drift around here. Easy day. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so basically there's this is all about storytelling, right? This channel revolves around stories. We have our our Friday shows, our seasonal shows, where we have we talk about Sun Wukong or Journey to the West, that sort of thing. Some different stories, myths. We've covered the stuff with like the Irish fairy tales and things like that, and we're going to continue doing that. Those take a little bit of time to kind of set up. But I'm thinking that Monday and Tuesday are going to be excellent days for us to basically dive into some games that have these really legendary stories, stuff that is just highly acclaimed, just really good stuff. And a list of some of those things that are on my list. To start off with, we have To the Moon. That might be the first one we do. Undertale, Chrono Trigger, Myst. We have things like What Remains of Edith Finch, Kingdom Hearts, Firewatch, Outer Wilds, among others. So there's quite a few different games out there that have some really good stories to tell, and so we're just going to spend our time doing that on those days. And then Thursday, it'll be kind of a floater. We'll either do our seasonal show that day, we'll do some some fables that day, we'll do some like really short stories we can't do a whole thing on. Maybe we'll do a few of them, and then also maybe we'll just do more time with the games and kind of diving into that. So with that said, we have arrived at our destination. So this is Titania out here. So we've got let me get some Titania facts for you guys. So this one's pretty interesting. First off, it is the largest moon of Uranus. So we've got I think it's the 8th largest moon in the solar system, so it's pretty big. The surface area of it in totality is probably like the surface area of Australia. So if you took Australia and wrapped it around a sphere, this is about the size of what we're talking about here. So as far as moons go, that's a pretty decent size. What else can we say about it here? Ooh, you know what? I have something for you guys. Let me see here. Here we go. I have a little zoomed in image here from none other than NASA, because I want to talk about the terrain here a little bit. So something that I bring up a lot is that, before we ever went into space, we knew what we would find, and that was that we would go out, we would see things like this, and we would know they were old, cold, and dead, because these moons, they don't have an atmosphere. They, you know, if they're here for millions of years, then, you know, over time, you know, the residual energy that's in their core would dissipate over time, and they cool off, and they be, you know, dead rocks. So what we find here, and we found that that's not really the case in a lot of these, and there's some explanations to try and justify why there's some still really active moons. But taking a look at this one right here, this is pretty cool because it has, you know, a lot of craters. It's got some smoothed out plains, but it also has these what are called grabens. These basically these trenches, these fault lines that go through both the plains and, you know, the impact craters. So that means that is the youngest geological effect on this moon. Well, and you can imagine then that only happens whenever there's a you know, activity in the planet, and there's, you know, seismic shifting and that sort of thing. So it's not old, cold, and dead. Clearly it has some geological activity, and it still has must still have some kind of, you know, active or hot core for it. And also as well, it is kind of surprising for the typical you would call like evolutionary models and that sort of thing, to have something that is mostly rock this far out in the solar system. And Titania, from everything that the information that's been gathered through NASA, it looks like this is about 66% rock. So they've got you know, there's a good chance it has a rock core, and it has a layer of ice around it. The rest of it is mainly ice. So yeah, kind of an interesting thing way out here. Let's see here. I think we can take that away. Perfect. Yeah, so it's you know, a beautiful moon, quite a large moon all the way out here in Uranus. It's the largest one in Uranus. I think I have some other information here. Let's see here. Oh, you guys want to know where it was named after? So in Shakespeare's play, I want to make sure I get the right Shakespeare's play down, but it is the Fairy Queen. Let's see here. I think it's a Midsummer Night's Dream. Hold up. I know it's in here somewhere. Here we go. Yes, A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's right. It's the Queen of the Fairies, Titania, and that's actually where it got its name from. And you can actually see, on the top right-hand corner of it is a crater, and that crater is called Gertrude. It's actually a pretty massive crater. It's the biggest one, at least in this area of the solar system. There are larger craters on other moons, but yeah, it's got some pretty big impacts, and it still is tidally locked with Uranus. A lot of these moons seem to be, and yeah, so it has actually a pretty it's not, I mean, nothing's a perfect circle, but its orbit around Uranus is a pretty clean circle for the most part. So it doesn't really have any like drastic changes that might justify why there's still an active core, or, you know, justify massive impact craters on it that wouldn't throw it off its course or make it more of elliptical orbit. So yeah, a bit of a mystery until we get some, you know, let's say NASA, you know, gets a little bit closer to it to study it more. That's about what we know about it right now. So yeah, let's take this time to go over to our reading room, get into our story today, Genesis chapter 28, which I'm excited to share with you guys. It's a pretty interesting story. So with that, Wilson, let's go ahead, and I'll see you guys in the reading room. There we are. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's go ahead. Yeah. Let's test out all the cameras. They're all working. Easy day. Okay, so let's just go ahead and dive right in. A little bit of review. So we covered last week some shenanigans afoot between, or really the family that we're talking about right now. You had Jacob and Esau, who were brothers. Jacob, swindled Esau, tricked Esau out of his birthright, and then tricked Esau out of his blessings as the firstborn. Rebecca helped Jacob with this. Jacob was Rebecca's favorite, and Esau was Isaac's favorite. Even though Esau, married some local Canaanite women, and that wasn't good. That actually caused a lot of problems with Isaac and with Rebecca. But regardless, since Esau liked to hunt and get some wild game, and Isaac really enjoyed eating the food from that, he kind of developed a favoritism for Esau, and so he was willingly going to go against what God had said earlier about how the youngest would rule over the oldest. Now we see this tension here. Let's see, we talked about this last week. It's worth mentioning again. God's perfect will versus God's permissive will. And it's just basically this idea that there's a lot of stuff going on in these stories, decisions that these people are making, and yet God is still kind of getting his way through it. Like God has said, the youngest will rule over the oldest, and God got his way, but it seemed to have happened through a lot of people acting very selfishly and acting in a way that God wouldn't approve of their behavior. So the way of kind of working this way out is to say, well, if God was going to control their behavior, the scene would have looked very different, right? So there's God's perfect will, and there's God's permissive will, where God allows human decisions to be made, and then he works with those decisions, manipulates the circumstances to still bring about the will that he has for kind of the overall picture, right? So that's what we kind of see happening here. Jacob is in a bit of trouble now because Esau is planning to kill Jacob, because Esau is very, very upset. He didn't care about his birthright or any of that stuff when he was younger, but now he cares about it, probably because now he sees the benefit of having those blessings and that sort of thing. So Esau is described as a bit of a heathen, just kind of loves to live in the moment and for whatever pleasures he can get. So that's kind of where we're at with this story. Rebecca has, overheard this plot that Esau wants to kill Jacob. So she's gone to Isaac and said, hey, let's send Jacob away to go find a wife with basically, one of the daughters of my brother, right? Rebecca speaking that. So they're going to send him away to Laban for Jacob to go find a wife who's not, from the Canaanites, keeping in the family, so to speak. So, or quite literally in this case. All right, let's see here. I guess we can get this text away. Let's do that. There we go. All right, perfect. I got my notes up. Yeah, let's just go ahead and dive right in here. Let's see. We'll go here. Easy day. Yeah, we're just gonna start. We'll do the first 5 verses and then talk about it. All right. So Isaac called for Jacob, blessed him, and said, "You must not marry any of these Canaanite women. Instead, go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughters. May God Almighty bless you and give you many children, and may your descendants multiply and become many nations. May God pass on to you and your descendants the blessings he promised to Abraham. May you own this land where you are now living as a foreigner, for God gave this land to Abraham." So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to stay with his uncle Laban, his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel the Aramean. All right. So we see Isaac is now on board with essentially what God had willed from the beginning, and let them know from the beginning in this situation now. So Isaac he's put aside his own, personal feelings on things. And so, not a perfect guy, but we see he does respect and revere God. And now he's blessing Jacob, sending him on his way to go find a bride where basically the same place that Isaac found a bride, with his relatives that were living out in Padan Aram. So this would be Rebecca's brother's daughters, essentially what they're trying to send him to go find. So with that, the blessing here, it's actually really interesting here. And may your descendants multiply and become many nations is very prophetic. Jacob's, as we'll see, Jacob will eventually have sons, and they will become the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's pretty prophetic, speaking into that. And it's a good setup or what's going on here. So we're going to switch course a little bit to go to Esau's perspective now that Jacob is successfully getting away from Esau, and we'll see what happens there. All right. Esau knew that his father Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to find a wife, and that he had warned Jacob, "You must not marry a Canaanite woman." He also knew that Jacob had obeyed his parents and gone to Padan Aram. It was now very clear to Esau that his father did not like the local Canaanite women. So Esau visited his uncle Ishmael's family and married one of Ishmael's daughters, in addition to the wives he already had. His new wife's name was Mahalath. She was the sister of Nebaioth. Let me say that with confidence. Nebaioth. There we go. The daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. I'm not an expert on pronouncing some of these things, but I promise to always try to pronounce them with confidence, no matter how wrong I am in their pronunciation. That part's not important, though. The part that's important is that Esau seems to be a bit vexed, a bit mixed of a character, right? So we just described him earlier as being kind of a heathen, right? Kind of someone who, is just chasing after pleasures and selfish things. But at the same time, like, he does want that favor from his father. He does want to a degree, to try and do the right thing. He just seems to be, very easily confusing himself and, chasing after things that don't matter. So his way of fixing this isn't to turn to God or anything like that. He's going to try and win the approval of his father. So basically, when he sees that his father has on board with helping Jacob out, sending him out to get a wife, giving him good instructions, continuing to bless him, even though Jacob's last interaction with his father before this was deceiving his father. His father calls him back in. Instead of getting on to him and punishing him, his father continues to bless him and send him on his way. And so Esau sees this and goes, now my own father's against me, kind of thing, right? At least that's how I'm seeing this right here. In an attempt to try and re-win his father's approval, realizing that he should have already realized this, right? Unless he wasn't raised very well and Isaac didn't give him a good understanding of what his expectations were. He's now going to try and win the approval by marrying someone who's also in the family on Ishmael's side. So if you remember Ishmael, that was the oldest son of Abraham who was sent away. And so, the mother was Hagar. He's going to go find a relative there, which he does. So now he has 3 wives, 2 Canaanite wives, and this other wife who's technically related, not a Canaanite. So he just keeps kind of doing it his own way. I mean, he's a bit of an interesting character. I don't think it's what was the best way of saying it? I don't think it's easy to just say like he's a bad person or something like that. I see him as being very confused and obviously chasing after selfish things. But, he's trying to figure it out. But yeah, once again, he's just trying to win the approval of his father. He still shouldn't be marrying this many wives, that sort of thing. So, it's going to turn from him. It is nice to know that he doesn't chase after Jacob. So he didn't hate Jacob so much that he would be willing to try and chase him down, hunt him down, and get his revenge. So it seems like he's willing to kind of maybe look past it a little bit. We're starting to see, a little bit of healing. He's diverted his attention to other things. He's not obsessed with trying to get even with Jacob. So that's a good thing on his, on his side right there about his character. All right, so let's go ahead. The next part is very interesting. So Jacob's going to have a dream, and we're going to break that down a little bit. There's some very prophetic things in this, and some very telling things about Jacob himself. So a little bit of review. From last week, so Jacob referred to God, right, as the God of his father, right? So this is Isaac's God. He didn't call him my Lord, right? I could actually, instead of me trying to fish for it, I brought it up last time, and so they think about that. So he's basically, kind of shedding light on this idea that he himself doesn't have a personal relationship with God. It doesn't seem to be very spiritual, right? As that's kind of one of the differences we see with Jacob as opposed to like Noah or Abraham or Isaac. We see from like at the beginning of the story, they're deeply, spiritual, deeply religious. They they have or at least want a connection with God. When God speaks to Abraham, Abraham responds, he listens, he goes where God tells him to go. This is someone who is clearly very serious about that sort of thing, where Jacob, we don't see him really, considering God or anything. And then he refers to God as, oh yeah, that's the God of my father. That's Isaac's God. So yeah, we'll see that, kind of go, yeah, Chris Panarian, hey, caught you live. Heck yeah, man, it's good to see you here. Cool. Let's move a little bit forward here. Jump into the next part. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll divide this up a little bit. How do we divide it here? Maybe just a couple verses. We'll go through 12. All right. It would help if I was on the right page. There we go. Let's do this. Meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba and traveled towards Haran. At sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamt of a stairway that reached from the earth up to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down the stairway. So that alone right there is some pretty interesting imagery that gets brought up later. So I got the verse here. So in John 1, verse 51, so this is, Jesus talking here. Let's see here. So, and he said unto him, verily, verily. So this one's in King James Version, by the way. Saying to you, hereafter you shall see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. So this is basically, some stuff that's happening, way later, obviously New Testament, but this is already imagery right here about a ladder from earth to heaven. And the reason that's significant is because at the very beginning of this story, we have a rift between heaven and earth, right? And that's the event with sin. And so that's kind of created this, or really severed the connection between, God and humanity, God and his creation, in the sense of, being, what was the best way to say it? Because you don't want to say like severed it completely, because in him that we live and move and have our being, but that relationship is severed, right? And so because of that, this is basically a symbol of that being reconnected, which is all part of God's plan all the way from when he talked to Abraham, right? That he wasn't just trying to create a nation, to himself, and that was the end goal. He's creating a nation to himself, a people that through that will bless all the nations. So God has a big plan here to reconnect that relationship and to undo what sin did all the way in, I believe it was chapter 3 of Genesis, right? With the story of, sin and Adam and Eve in the garden and that sort of thing. So we're already seeing a vision of that. And Jesus is saying, basically that he is the one who makes that connection, right? That he is the one who bridges that gap. So we'll obviously get there eventually, but that's basically what's being foreshadowed right here. So pretty cool stuff. Let's go ahead, get into the rest of this vision. This man who doesn't have a relationship with God, it seems. Let's see what happens next. Here we go. All right. At the top of the stairway stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust on the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you. All right. So, God has this big plan. He started with Abraham. It's gone through Isaac. And then Isaac is like, hey, this covenant that, was made with God, may that, go through you, Jacob. It's part of what Isaac blessed Jacob with earlier here. And now God is reconfirming it, right? So it's not just going on Isaac's word here. God is reconfirming this covenant that he made with Abraham, and he's saying that he's going to be with Jacob, who, and interesting there is that Jacob didn't chase after God first. Jacob is just, he's just going to sleep, right? He's going to find himself a wife. God is the one who initiates this relationship with Jacob. So let's see what Jacob's response is here. So it's pretty cool. Let's go over here. All right. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place." And I wasn't even aware of it. But he was also afraid and said, "What an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven." Now I got to say right here, Jacob is incorrect. It just kind of shows like how little Jacob understands about these things. He's not a spiritual person. He has this incredible spiritual experience and a dream with God. And it's, he's basically saying, hey, this place must be, I must have just accidentally slept at the very place that God was just hanging out at, right? This must be the house of God. Not realizing that God is everywhere and that God is always, able to kind of show up and that sort of thing. And you don't really see this response with, like Abraham. When Abraham would have these visions, he would build an altar and he would do things to try and show his, basically worship God. But he was doing that in celebration of, God being there, God speaking to him. He wasn't doing it because he felt like, I have just stumbled upon this one area, this patch of grass that happens to be God's house, right? So Jacob here is kind of revealing, his, I want to say ignorance as much as, I would say naivety. I don't know. You guys get the idea, right? He doesn't seem to understand this stuff very well, but God is still pursuing him anyways. In no way, shape, or form did he earn any of this. He wasn't super, righteous. He wasn't super intellectual. Just a guy. So yeah, let's see what else he has to say here. Yeah. Okay. The next morning, Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against, and he set it upright at a memorial pillar. There we go. And then he poured olive oil all over it. He named that place Bethel, which means house of God, although it was previously called Luz. Then Jacob made his vow, "If God will indeed be with me and protect me on this journey, and if he will provide me with food and clothing, and if I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will certainly be my God. And this memorial pillar I have set up will become a place of worshiping God, and I will present to God a tenth of everything he gives me." So that's interesting. So Jacob is basically saying, hey, listen, God, if you are truly with me on my journey, if you give me success and you bring me back here safely, back to my father's house safely, by the way, is a lot of these if statements. If you do this, if you do that, if you do that, then, right? So what does he say then? Let's see here. "And if I return safely to my father's home, then the Lord will certainly be my God," right? So right now in his mind, this is his father's God. This is his grandfather's God. You know what, Lord, how about this? I will make you my God if you meet all these certain qualifications. Now, think of the difference between God and Jacob in this situation right here. If God had a list of qualifications for Jacob to meet in order to have a relationship with Jacob, that would, obviously he never would measure up to it, right? So God didn't enter into this saying, hey, Jacob, if you do this and if you do this, I will be your God. He just says, no, like this covenant is through you and we're doing this, right? And I will be with you. No if statements. And then Jacob has nothing but if statements. Once again, kind of showing his spiritual immaturity here. And yeah, he's early in this journey, early in trying to figure things out. Not a spiritual person, but he will become one, right? So let's see here. That is actually, there's no more to read today. That is actually the end of chapter 28. So we're going to get into some pretty interesting stuff. The trickster meeting his match, right? So that will be next week in 29. So let me go ahead and put this somewhere. Go. Yeah. All right. So anything else left to be said about this story? I think it's very interesting and very telling about the nature of God, his relationship with people. Jacob has really like done nothing. I can't think of anything super spiritual or good that Jacob's done up to this point in the story. I guess you could say he's clever and he's smart, but aside from that, I mean, he's willing to trick his father, willing to trick his brother to get the things that he wants. So in a lot of ways, you could say that him and Esau are quite comparable in their character in that way. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting story. You know, broken people, God using broken people to bring about a pretty good purpose, or a pretty big purpose. And we get to see a foreshadow of that with that the ladder that connected earth and heaven together. So yeah, so with that, we're going to go ahead and go back to the front of the ship. We're going to get into our space news, kind of review a little bit about we got the crowd here now, so we'll review some of the changes that we're going to be doing with the channel starting next week, which I'm really excited about. So with that, let's go ahead and transition back to the front. I'll see you guys there. Here we go. Perfect. Wilson has to turn it around. Yes, changes, Julian. So yeah, actually I got a couple fun things. I'm gonna see if you guys can guess how far away the Europa Clipper is, and then we'll go look at that. But yeah, you know what? Before we get into the space news, let me we'll turn this thing around real quick. So Chris, I don't know if you've seen this yet. Let me show you a warp drive. Let's see. I got Wilson on board of here. Wilson, where'd you put it? Here we go. We'll just do this. We'll do this. I got ways to do this. Here we go. That should work. If we fly through Titania, it's not my fault, guys. All right. Turn it around. There we go. Easy day. So, yeah, so we've got the changes. Well, starting next week, we're going to have this show, instead of it just being one, show like every week on Wednesday, the Wednesday show won't change. Same time, same setup, everything like that. But we're going to start doing Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Monday and Tuesday are going to be primarily, we're going to be playing video games that have really good story content in it. And we're basically just going to be mining or farming that story out of it and then getting to experience it. So there's some pretty amazing games out there. There's a lot that I wish that I had, could play, but to sit down and take the time to do that and kind of, especially when you're an adult, it's it's kind of hard to do, but there's some really amazing stories in there. So what I'll do is take the time on Monday and Tuesday to mine those stories out for you. We'll experience it together and have some fun with it. Let's see here. I think that gets us locked in so we don't fall down to earth. That'll be good. Let's see. Yeah. We are good. We'll go here. So I'm really excited about that. The first one, I don't know if you guys have heard of this one. It's called To the Moon. It by theme, it sounds pretty good. But I hear it's got a really good story. I've never played it before. But yeah, we'll just kind of experience it together and see what that's like. I'm really excited about that. And then on Thursday is going to be a bit of a floater. So I'm going to do the seasonal shows on Thursday when they're prepared, and when they're not prepared, we'll either do some more of the gaming or we'll do some like not parables, but I can't even think of the word of it now. But very, very short stories that, like fables. There we go. Like Aesop's fables, things like that. Things you couldn't really do a whole show talking about, but we can probably read like 3 or 4 or 5 of them and just kind of like have fun, just kind of talking about it, the meaning of them, and some of them get pretty interesting. Some of them are just kind of really random, but it's just enriching ourselves with the stories that belong to all of us, bringing people together, which is what the Silverwind is all about. So let's go ahead and jump into the news here a little bit. So I wanted to show you guys this. It's going to require me to change this setup a little bit. Here we go. Yeah. That right there. Okay, we're good. let me get some stuff with SpaceX here. And I think we can use the same. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so I've got this article right here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically SpaceX is still working on their Starlink program. They're basically sending like a fleet of satellites up into space. They just I'm pretty sure it was today. Yep, today they launched another 20 Starlink satellites into space. Well, so basically what that's going to do, as it talks right here, the Starlink 99 mission featured 13 satellites. Well, okay, maybe 13. I thought I read flight added another 20. There we go. Oh, whatever it is, another group of satellites that include direct-to-cell capabilities. So this is actually pretty cool. So they're going to have, through Starlink, access to like a cellular service. That's actually pretty cool stuff. So the 13 Starlink satellites launched on Wednesday mission brought the total of the parts of SpaceX's mega constellation to 260. That's a lot. The company's first launched this type of satellite into Starlink 7-9 mission on January 2024. So 260 satellites into space since January of this year. Elon Musk has been very busy here, and the whole SpaceX team. So let's see here. Following that flight, the launch of Starlink 8-1 in April. He's been sending up some Starlinks, batches of 13. Let's see here. There was a part here. Yeah. We will continue to launch and improve the service after that in order to improve the coverage and latency of our partner telcos around the world. So basically, this is going to be a cellular service that you should be able to get the internet or cellular service when you're up in the mountains and crazy places where you wouldn't normally have that because you don't have cell towers there. So this will be great for people who live in rural areas. But more than that, rescue missions has probably changed the whole game when it comes to rescue operations. If you have a Starlink and you're out hiking or doing something like that, you get injured, you'll be able to get rescued or help much easier. All that's going to be a game changer. This will probably do a lot to save lives. So this is going to be a really cool technology, fun stuff happening in space. And speaking of fun stuff happening in space, you get this here. Yeah. We got the Europa Clipper here. I didn't already reveal it. All right, for those of you who would like, give you guys a couple minutes here, and then we'll talk about the Europa Clipper and its mission while you guys answer this. But in the chat right now, I would love to see what you guys would guess how many miles the Europa Clipper is from Earth at this moment. If you don't know what the Europa Clipper is, it is a satellite going to Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. And let's go to one of the moons of Jupiter right now. While you guys guess how many miles this is away from Earth. I'll even give you a hint right here. Watch this. There's Earth. There's the Europa Clipper. And this is fairly accurate on its distance, right? So let's zoom out here. There we go. Here's Jupiter. I love this thing. This is called Eyes of the Solar System, by the way. If you have an internet browser, you can pull this up too. It's pretty fun. Let's see. Well, we don't want Jupiter itself. Hold up. Where's Europa? There it is. All right, following this one closely, I'm really excited about this mission. It's gonna take a little bit to get there, but this is Europa, and as you can see, these little lines right here. These are cracks in an icy crust, and beneath that is a liquid ocean. We know because there are geysers that spray out of here, and Enceladus has the same thing happening. But by scans of this moon, of this little water world, we can tell that in the inside it has an actual rock core, and the idea is that it's a very good chance that there is an ocean with an actual floor bed, and so it's being encased in ice. The activity on the inside is keeping that warm enough to be liquid. Anyways, the whole reason this is really cool is because this is probably one of the best places in the solar system that if there was going to be life on another planet, or in this case a moon, this would be probably one of the best chances we would have at seeing if life was there. And so the Europa Clipper is going to be flying around this thing. It's not going to land on it, but it's going to do some passes around it. It's going to try and collect some of the it'll be ice obviously once it leaves the moon, but pick up some samples of what is being ejected out these geysers. and seeing if we can find any kind of signs of life or like algae or bacteria, or who knows, maybe a space fish. It'd be really cool if there were space whales beneath the surface of Europa here. So anyways, it's an interesting thing to try and get something all the way over there. So yeah, you guys are ready for this? Let's go ahead. Let's talk about, oh, actually that's Mars. We like you, Mars, but that's not what I meant to click on. Let's see. Let's find Earth here. There we go. There's Earth. Look how wonderful it is. Look at all this nonsense flying around Earth right now. Let's see. Where is Europa Clipper? Europa Clipper is just on its journey right now. Going the long way. All right, you guys want to see this? I got a distance tool right here. Let's go to, let's see. How far is it from Earth? Is ready for this? All right, if you guessed 9 million, that's probably there. It's 8.93 million miles away from Earth right now. This launched, I think just I think 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was only like 2 weeks ago this thing launched, and sorry, you know, almost 9 million miles away from Earth. So that's it's pretty interesting. This little guy right here should be fun to track its progress and see what it finds. Beyond that, oh, here we go, spinning around on me. Yeah, so with that, I think we'll probably wrap up there, but you see here, I can probably run that. Yeah, you know, if you with a Silverwind, you can for sure. If you guys want, we could totally visit the Europa Clipper. We could just kind of hang out. We can have it on the outside of the ship there. But yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this show. We'll see you guys on Monday. I'll see you on Wednesday, but the soonest I'll see you guys is Monday, where we will be playing To the Moon. I hear it's just I hear it's like a very, you know, it's supposed to be very emotional or something. We'll see, you know, see if it can pull on my heartstrings or not. And we'll kind of break down a little bit, you know, talk about the storytelling elements, the things that it does really well. Yeah, so, you know, it's just this good stories in video games. Not every video game has a good story in it, but the ones that are critically acclaimed, the ones that have proven themselves to have really good stories, it can be hard to find the time to actually, you know, get that story. It's the same way as like reading some of these things, right? It's kind of hard to find the time sometimes to sit down and read. So like Journey to the West is very long. I'm enjoying the read myself right now, but I probably wouldn't be reading it if I wasn't, you know, making content talking about it. So yeah, this is a way for us to try and get these stories and give it to all of you, the rest of humanity, because these stories belong to you. And yeah, so we'll do that on Monday. Probably have a different intro, fun stuff like that. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up there. We'll hit that outro, and with that, let's see. Yeah, with that, I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a fantastic rest of your week.
Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Everyone join the live stream. Here, hold on. Here we go. To everyone on the live stream, thank you so much. Be sure to check out the artist and link in the description below. To every brave subscriber, thank you. You keep us flying.